It was 1959. American television was living through the golden age of the Western, and on September 12th, a show arrived that changed everything. Bonanza, the Cartwright family, the Ponderosa Ranch, 14 seasons, 431 episodes, and a permanent place in history that no one will ever take away. Did you know that one of the show's lead actors enrolled in a doctoral program at UCLA while filming, and only walked away from his academic career once the show hit #1 in the country? Did you know that another cast member survived a terrorist hijacking, and almost nobody knows about it? And this. One of the actors was on the short list to play Mr. Spock on Star Trek, but in the end, stayed in the saddle on the Ponderosa. Today we remember these people, who they were when the whole world knew their names, and who they became, or how history chose to remember them. Number 1, Pernell Roberts as Adam Cartwright, the television screen. A tall, dark-haired man appears. Deep voice, the look of someone always thinking several moves ahead. This is Adam Cartwright, Ben's eldest son, the educated engineer, the intellectual of the family, a man who didn't particularly enjoy saying, "Yes, Pa," to everything. And that feeling would very soon spill off the set entirely. Pernell Roberts was born on May 18th, 1928, in Waycross, Georgia. When Bonanza premiered, he was 31. He was a professional stage actor, Broadway, classical Shakespeare, before Hollywood came knocking. In 1959, he was cast as Adam Cartwright, the eldest educated son. But from the start, something wasn't right. Pernell Roberts was a man of conviction. He openly criticized NBC executives for the show's stereotyped portrayals of minorities, particularly the character of Cook Hop Sing. He marched for civil rights in Selma in 1965. He pushed for more complex scripts, more serious material. The eternal good son, Adam felt like a cage. After 6 seasons, in 1965, when the show was at its peak, ranking among the top 3 programs on American television, Roberts declined to renew his contract. It was a scandal. Adam wasn't killed off. His character simply left. First, the story was that he'd gone to sea. Then, that he'd moved to Europe. There are few things more painful for an audience than the disappearance of a beloved character with no explanation. After leaving Bonanza, the years moved slowly. Substantial roles didn't come. Roberts returned to the stage, toured with Ingrid Bergman in a Broadway production, played Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind in Los Angeles. He waited, and the wait paid off. In 1979, 14 years after walking away from Bonanza, he landed the role of Chief of Surgery on Trapper John, M.D., returning to television in triumph. 7 seasons, Emmy nominations. He had proven his point. Tragedy found him in his personal life. In 1989, his only son, Jonathan, was killed in a motorcycle accident. It was a blow Roberts carried for the rest of his life. In his final years, with bitter irony, he called himself the last of the Cartwrights. Every one of his co-stars had gone before him. Lorne Greene died in 1987, Dan Blocker in 1972, Michael Landon in 1991. In 2007, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, the same disease that had taken Michael Landon. In January 2010, Pernell Roberts died. He was 81 years old. He was 31 when Bonanza began. He outlived every member of the core cast. And to the end, he never regretted leaving the ranch. Number 2, Victor Sen Yung as Hop Sing. When viewers thought about the Cartwright household, they didn't only think about 4 men. There was someone else without whom the Ponderosa simply wouldn't exist. Hop Sing, the cook, the grumbler, the keeper of the hearth, and, unexpectedly, one of the most beloved characters on the show. He was played by Victor Sen Yung, born on October 18, 1915 in San Francisco, the son of Chinese immigrants. His mother died in the influenza epidemic of 1919 when he was 3 years old. His father temporarily placed the children in an orphanage while he rebuilt his life. A childhood without stability, without roots. And yet, Victor found his way. He graduated from UC Berkeley with a degree that's hard to forget, animal husbandry. And he was building his acting career at the same time. In 1938, he first appeared in the Charlie Chan film series as Number 2 Son, Jimmy Chan. And for several years, that was his signature role. the charming young Chinese American. When Bonanza launched in 1959, Victor Sen Yung was 43. Hop Sing wasn't just a supporting character. Show creator David Dortort later admitted that the Cartwright cook had built such a devoted following that he began deliberately writing episodes where Hop Sing took center stage. Sen Yung appeared in 107 episodes across all 14 seasons, more than many main cast members. Off-camera, Hop Sing had a real secret. The man could actually cook. Victor Sen Yung was a recognized master of Cantonese cuisine, made regular appearances on cooking shows, and in 1974 published the Great Wok Cookbook. It's still in print. But there was a chapter of his life that almost no one knew about. In 1972, during production on Bonanza, Sen Yung was aboard a Pacific Southwest Airlines flight from Sacramento to Burbank with a stop in San Francisco. The plane was hijacked by terrorists. The FBI launched a ground assault at San Francisco Airport. In the firefight, Senator Yung was shot in the back. One other passenger and both hijackers died. The actor survived. The end of his life was tragic. In November 1980, Victor Sen Yung was found dead in his home in North Hollywood. Investigators initially suspected foul play, but the investigation revealed it was an accident. Sen Yung ran a small mail-order ceramics business and fired his pieces in a gas kiln at home. That kiln leaked carbon monoxide. He was 65 years old. The eulogy at his funeral was delivered by Pernell Roberts. Roberts also covered the cost of the burial. Number 3, Ray Teal as Sheriff Roy Coffey. Every good Western needs its own sheriff. In Bonanza, that was Roy Coffey, a steady, no-nonsense keeper of the peace in Virginia City, who always showed up just as the Cartwrights were getting themselves into trouble. He was played by an actor whose career was so extensive that most viewers had no idea how many times they had already seen him. Ray Teal was born on January 12, 1902, in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He never planned on becoming an actor. He was a saxophone player. In the 1920s, he led his own jazz orchestra at UCLA and performed throughout the South. He didn't come to acting until the mid-1930s, already grown, already shaped by an entirely different life. His first notable film role came in 1938, when he was 36. Then the floodgates opened. Over nearly 40 years, Ray Teal appeared in more than 300 films and television programs, playing every kind of character imaginable, from warm-hearted family men to cold-blooded killers. He played a judge at the Nuremberg trials alongside Spencer Tracy in Judgment at Nuremberg, 1961. He appeared in The Best Years of Our Lives, 1946, one of the defining American films of that decade. He worked with Billy Wilder in Ace in the Hole, 1951. And through all of it, the general public knew him above all as a sheriff, one of the dozens of lawmen he played throughout his career. When he joined Bonanza in 1960, during the second season, as Sheriff Roy Coffey, he was 58, one of the oldest permanent cast members. He appeared in 98 episodes through 1972. His Coffey wasn't a heroic action movie cop. He was a tired, wise man who understood that in the real world, not every problem gets solved with a gun. That weariness was exactly what made him feel authentic. After Bonanza, Teal appeared in a handful of television films and retired in 1974. He died on April 2, 1976, in Santa Monica, California. He was 74 years old, a man who lived 3 lives, musician, actor, and lawman, and left quietly, as men who've done their part tend to do. Number 4, Bing Russell as Deputy Sheriff Clem Foster. Every town needs not just a sheriff, but a reliable deputy. In Virginia City, that was Clem Foster, young, likable, always ready to lend a hand. He spent years in Roy Coffey's shadow, and then, when Coffey hung up his badge, stepped up to take charge himself. He was played by an actor remembered today less for the role itself than for another reason entirely, as the father of one of the biggest stars in Hollywood history. Bing Russell, born Neil Oliver Russell, arrived on May 5, 1926, in Brattleboro, Vermont. From childhood, he dreamed of being an actor and was studying drama in high school. But he had another passion: baseball. As a young man, he became an unofficial mascot for the New York Yankees and befriended legends including Joe DiMaggio and Lefty Gomez. When Lou Gehrig, already mortally ill, stepped away from baseball for the last time, It was Russell who received the final home run bat Gehrig ever hit. That bat became a Russell family heirloom. Bing came to Bonanza in 1961 at 35. His Clem Foster grew over the years from an unremarkable deputy into the full-fledged head of law enforcement in Virginia City, appearing in 59 episodes by the end of the run. But the whole time, another story was quietly unfolding. His young son, Kurt, was already hanging around film sets. Dad brought him along, introduced him to the actors, taught him to see the world through the eyes of someone who makes movies. Kurt Russell made his film debut the same year his father joined Bonanza, and became a star while his father was still alive. In 1979, they appeared together in a television film about Elvis Presley, Kurt as Elvis himself, Bing as Elvis's father, Vernon. The family became part of the movies, literally, as a unit. After Bonanza, Bing Russell made an unexpected turn. In 1973, he purchased a professional baseball team, the Portland Mavericks, the only independent club in the league. His philosophy was simple, not winning, but fun. He was the first owner in professional baseball history to hire a woman as general manager. He hired the first Asian American head coach in the sport's professional ranks. He gave players nobody else wanted one last chance at a final season. The team set attendance records. In 2014, Kurt Russell produced a documentary about them, The Battered Bastards of Baseball, which earned rapturous reviews at Sundance. On April 8, 2003, Bing Russell died from complications of cancer in Thousand Oaks, California. He was 76 years old. He arrived on Bonanza at 35 and left this world at 76, leaving behind movies, baseball, and a son that all of America loved. Number 5. Guy Williams as Will Cartwright. There is one brief but utterly remarkable chapter in the story of Bonanza. 1964. Pernell Roberts announces he plans to leave after the 6th season. The producers panic. 4 Cartwrights is the show's formula, its architecture. Without the 4th, everything falls apart. They need a replacement, and they found one, in the form of a man millions of viewers already knew from a different image entirely, a black mask and a sword. Guy Williams was born on January 14th, 1924, in Washington Heights, New York, as Armando Joseph Catalano, descended from Sicilian immigrants, tall and 6'3", with classic Hollywood looks and a natural elegance. His agent advised him to adopt a less ethnic name. He became Guy Williams. Before Zorro, he had worked as an insurance agent, a welder, an accountant, an inspector of aircraft parts, and ultimately a fashion model, until Hollywood finally noticed him. In 1957, Disney signed him to play Zorro. He was 33. Don Diego de la Vega, the nobleman with a double life, became his signature, the sword, the mask, the black stallion. The show was a thunderous success, spawned several feature films, and became a cultural touchstone, especially in Argentina, where Zorro aired twice a day. In 1964, Guy Williams arrived on the Ponderosa as Will Cartwright, Ben's nephew. He was 40. He was meant to become the 4th permanent cast member, officially replacing the departing Adam. But the producers, receiving thousands of fan letters begging them to keep the original Cartwrights, persuaded Roberts to extend his contract one more season. Guy Williams was quietly written out after 5 episodes. No scandal, no explanation. He simply vanished, the way his Zorro always did. In 1965, he found a new home in a completely different galaxy. Professor John Robinson in Lost in Space, 3 seasons. A family again, a patriarch again. The role of father seemed to be his destiny. But then, silence. Hollywood stopped offering anything worthwhile. In 1973, Guy Williams traveled to Argentina for the first time and was stunned. There they worshipped him like a living god. Thousands of people in the streets, journalists, fans, official receptions. In Argentina, El Zorro wasn't just a character. He was part of the national identity. Williams stayed. He moved to Buenos Aires, to the upscale neighborhood of Recoleta. In May 1989, neighbors and friends hadn't been able to reach him for several days. Local police forced entry to his apartment. Guy Williams was dead. A ruptured brain aneurysm. The autopsy determined he had died around April 30th. He was 65 years old. The body wasn't discovered until May 6th, a solitary death in a foreign country he had come to call his own. His ashes were scattered over the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Malibu, and in Argentina, his remains were held at an Actors Union memorial for 2 more years, because they couldn't bring themselves to say goodbye. In 2001, posthumously, Guy Williams received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. 5 episodes of Bonanza, not much to show. But he was here, and no one can take that away. Number 6, David Canary as Candy Canary. When Pernell Roberts left the show in 1965 and the Cartwrights lost Adam, the producers faced a problem. Of 3 lead characters, there were now 2. They needed someone new, not another son, but something different. The answer came in 1967 when a hired hand named Candy Canary rode onto the Ponderosa, the ranch foreman, a man who almost became family. David Canary was born on August 25, 1938 in Elwood, Indiana, and grew up in Ohio. He was a gifted athlete. His football was good enough that the Denver Broncos offered him a professional contract. He turned it down. The stage instead of the stadium. A microphone instead of a ball. He studied music at the University of Cincinnati, became a baritone, and spent several years building a career in theater. When he was invited to join Bonanza in 1967, he was 28. Show creator David Dortort had spotted him in the Western Hombre with Paul Newman and called his agent immediately. "This is the guy who walks on screen and you stop seeing everyone else," he said. A little-known footnote. In 1967, when a contract dispute flared between Leonard Nimoy and the producers of Star Trek, the show's creators drew up a contingency list of candidates in case Nimoy walked. David Canary's name was on that list. History went a different direction. Nimoy stayed, Canary became Candy. From all appearances, he had no regrets. Candy Canary appeared on the show from 1967 to 1970, left after a contract dispute, but returned in 1972, right after the unexpected death of Dan Blocker. He appeared in 76 episodes total. After Bonanza, Canary found a new life in daytime television. From 1983 on, he played twin brothers, Adam and Stuart Chandler, on All My Children. For that work, he received 5 Daytime Emmy Awards and earned 16 nominations. Few people knew that, in his final years, David Canary was living with dementia. His family kept it private for a long time. On November 16, 2015, he died quietly in a memory care facility in Wilton, Connecticut. He was 77, a man who could have been a professional athlete, who came within reach of being considered for Spock, and who became the Ponderosa's most beloved cowhand. Number 7, Mitch Vogel as Jamie Cartwright. By 1970, Bonanza needed fresh blood. Lorne Greene was too old to be a convincing father to Landon, who was already 34. The producers decided to bring a boy into the family, a teenage orphan the Cartwrights take under their wing. They found exactly the right actor, almost by accident. Mitch Vogel was born on January 17, 1956, in Alhambra, California. He was only 14 when he joined Bonanza as a regular, but by that point, he was already a seasoned performer. In 1968, at age 12, he appeared in the comedy Yours, Mine, and Ours with Lucille Ball and Henry Fonda. In 1969, he played the lead in the William Faulkner adaptation The Rivers Opposite Steve McQueen, and received a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actor. At 13 years old, McQueen, by Mitch's own account, treated him like a son, invited him to stay over, became close with his family. It wasn't just a professional relationship. It was genuine mentorship. On the Bonanza set, Mitch found another family. Lorne Greene tested him deliberately during rehearsal, going off script without warning, and was floored when the kid didn't flinch, but responded completely organically to the change. "This is no ordinary child actor," Greene said. "This is a person with a rare gift." Dan Blocker and Michael Landon loved to pull pranks on Mitch, including the time they painted a cartoon face on top of Blocker's bald head so he could remove his hat at the right moment. The entire soundstage collapsed laughing. When Bonanza ended in 1973, Mitch was 17. He continued acting for a few years, Disney films, Little House on the Prairie with Landon. But by 22, he'd made up his mind. Enough. He walked away from the industry voluntarily, without drama and without regret. Today, Mitch Vogel is 70 years old. He lives in Southern California, plays in a rock band, directs productions for his church theater, and occasionally appears at Bonanza fan conventions. As of 2026, he is one of only 2 surviving lead cast members from the original series, along with Tim Matheson. That orphan boy from the Ponderosa is still with us, and that, all by itself, is a story worth telling. Number 8. Tim Matheson as Griff King. The final season of Bonanza, 1972-73, was cursed. Dan Blocker died unexpectedly following routine surgery. Ratings collapsed. NBC moved the show to a brutal time slot. Something had to be done, and the producers added a new character, a young, cocky parolee named Griff King, taken under the wing of Ben Cartwright. Tim Matheson was born on December 31st, 1947, in Glendale, California. When he came to Bonanza, he was 24, but he was already a veteran. He'd started his career at 13 on CBS, and in 1964 had voiced the lead character of the animated series Johnny Quest, a show that entire generations of American kids grew up watching and still remember. Griff King's story never got the chance to be fully told. Bonanza was canceled by NBC in November 1972, before the final season had even finished airing. Matheson's character was left unresolved, but Tim Matheson himself was far from finished. In 1978 came Animal House with John Belushi. Ann Matheson, as Otter Stratton, became the face of a generation's collegiate rebellion. The film is preserved in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as a culturally significant work. In the 2000s, he played Vice President John Hoynes on The West Wing, a complex, ambitious political operator, and earned 2 Emmy nominations. Today, Tim Matheson is 78 years old. He continues to work actively, appearing in the Netflix series Virgin River as local doctor Vernon Mullins since 2019. As of 2026, he remains one of only 2 surviving lead cast members from Bonanza, of the entire original cast. Only he and Mitch Vogel are still here. Number 9, Dan Blocker as Hoss Cartwright. If Bonanza had a heart, it beat inside this man's enormous chest. Dan Blocker was born on December 10, 1928, in the small Texas town of DeKalb in Bowie County. At birth, he weighed nearly 13 pounds, a Bowie County record that, by all accounts, still stands. By the time he was 12, he weighed close to 220 pounds and stood 6 feet 2 inches. Dan Blocker wasn't just big, he was brilliant. The only member of the Bonanza Corps cast to hold a master's degree. He taught English and drama at a high school in Texas, then at a middle school in New Mexico. He later moved to California to pursue his doctorate at UCLA. It was during that period that a director noticed him and offered him a screen test. Even after Bonanza hit its stride and the production schedule became brutal, cast calls at 7 in the morning, wrap at 9 at night, 5 days a week, more than 30 episodes a year. Blocker held on to his dream of finishing the doctorate for a long time. Only when the show reached number 1 in the country did he finally accept that academia would have to wait. Hoss Cartwright was written as a gentle simpleton, big and a little dim. Blocker turned him into something else entirely. His Hoss was kind without being naive, strong without being aggressive, funny without being humiliated. He became the favorite Cartwright among younger viewers, and adults saw in him what they wished they could see in themselves, a person without malice. In 1963, Dan Blocker became a co-owner of the Bonanza Steakhouse restaurant chain and became their advertising spokesman in character as Hoss. He also appeared in 2 films with Frank Sinatra. Life seemed to be at a high point. On May 13, 1972, Dan Blocker went into surgery at a Los Angeles hospital for a routine gallbladder removal. Routine. Nothing serious. But after the operation, a blood clot developed in his lung, a pulmonary embolism. The doctors could do nothing. He was 43 years old. The news of Blocker's death shook the country. Bonanza tried to continue without Hoss, but it was already a different show. In the first episode of the 14th season, Little Joe says quietly that Hoss died trying to save someone from drowning. No details, just, he's gone. Michael Landon later admitted, when he needed to cry on camera, he thought about Dan Blocker. Every time. Number 10. Lorne Greene as Ben Cartwright. He had the voice you couldn't help but trust, deep, calm, assured, a baritone, the face of a father, the kind of father you'd want. In 2007, TV Guide ranked Ben Cartwright second on its list of the greatest television fathers of all time, right behind Cliff Huxtable from The Cosby Show. Lorne Greene was born on February 12, 1915, in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. His given name was Lyon Hyman Greene. He was the son of Russian Jewish immigrants. In his youth, he pursued chemical engineering at Queen's University, but the theater proved stronger. His extraordinary voice found its first home in radio. During World War II, he became the chief newsreader for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And for reading, every single night, steadily with dignity, the lists of wartime casualties, he earned two nicknames, the Voice of Canada and the Voice of Doom. When he was offered a role in a new NBC Western in 1959, he was 44 years old. He immediately became the embodiment of what American audiences understood by the words "a real man, a real father." By the mid-1960s, when Bonanza was the most watched show in the United States, Greene released a music album. His ballad Ringo, the story of a real Old West outlaw, reached #1 on the charts. He laughed about it. "I don't know what surprises me more, that I'm singing or that people seem to like it." After Bonanza, Lorne Greene didn't retire. He appeared in the miniseries Roots, 1977, as Kunta Kinte's first enslaver. He became Commander Adama in the original Battlestar Galactica, 1978-79, another iconic patriarchal role, this time in outer space. It seemed as though his calling was to be a father, on screen and in the minds of viewers. In 1987, Lorne Greene attended the press conference announcing the television film Bonanza: The Next Generation, in which he was to reprise the role of Ben Cartwright. But shortly before filming was to begin, he was hospitalized with a stomach ulcer. Pneumonia developed while he was in the hospital. On September 11, 1987, Lorne Greene died in Santa Monica. He was 72 years old. Number 11. Michael Landon as Little Joe Cartwright. The last one, the youngest, the most hot-headed, the most romantic, the most restless of the brothers, and the most famous person who ever called the Ponderosa home. Michael Landon was born on October 31, 1936, in the Forest Hills neighborhood of Queens, New York, under the name Eugene Maurice Orowitz. His father was Jewish, his mother was Irish Catholic. His childhood was hard. His mother suffered from a mental illness, threatened suicide, and terrorized her son. As a small boy, Eugene once pulled her from drowning, even though he couldn't swim himself. Years later, he turned that story into a television film. Athletics became his escape. He was talented enough at the javelin to earn an athletic scholarship to the University of Southern California. Then, a ligament injury ended those plans. That left acting. He chose the name Michael Landon almost at random, pulled from a phone book. In 1957, he appeared in the now legendary B-movie I Was a Teenage Werewolf, which still appears on lists of America's most beloved cult horror films. That role caught the eye of producer David Dortort and earned him an invitation to Bonanza. In 1959, Landon was 22 years old. A Little Joe Cartwright, hot-headed, lovesick, always ready to jump into a fight or fall head over heels, became his alter ego on screen. He received more fan mail than any other cast member, and he put that position to work. Starting in 1962, he was writing scripts. From 1968 on, he was directing. By the end of Bonanza, Michael Landon was no longer just an actor. He was a full creative force. When the show ended in 1973, he immediately built something new. Little House on the Prairie, 1974 to 1983, wasn't just a hit. It was a family saga watched the world over, one that shaped childhoods and moved adults. Landon created the show, wrote the majority of its episodes, directed them, and starred. Then came Highway to Heaven, 1984 to 1989, where he played a probationary angel. Another hit. Another moral story about love and what it means to be human. He appeared on the cover of TV Guide 22 times, more than any other performer except Lucille Ball. In April 1991, while on a ski trip in Utah, Michael Landon felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. Back home, he went in for tests. The diagnosis was a death sentence, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, inoperable, metastases in the lymph nodes and liver. On May 9, 1991, he appeared on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and told all of America about his illness. He made jokes, he laughed, he talked about fighting back. He asked his fans to pray for him. The country held its breath. He became a symbol of courage in the face of a terminal diagnosis. On July 1st, 1991, Michael Landon died in Malibu. He was 54 years old. 500 people attended his funeral, including President Ronald Reagan and his wife Nancy. His headstone reads, "He faced life with joy. He gave life generously. He left a legacy of love and laughter." Little Joe Cartwright was forever young, passionate, alive, unstoppable. Michael Landon was too, right up to the very end. 14 seasons, 431 episodes. The Ponderosa Ranch, a place that only ever existed on a screen, yet became a real home in the memories of millions. Bonanza ended long ago, but the people who made it didn't disappear. They became stories. Stories about strength and weakness, about choices and the price you pay for them. About how sometimes the most famous people in the world carry private tragedies that nobody ever hears about. If this video moved you, subscribe to the channel. This is where we talk about people worth remembering, people who shaped our culture and our childhoods. And drop a comment. Who was your favorite on Bonanza, Hoss, Little Joe, the steady wise Ben, or maybe Quiet Candy, the man who almost became Spock? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you.